Hey Guardians, I just want to let everyone know that I do have both a Twitch and a Twitter, and I'm very active on both. Feel free to come give me a follow on both, links in the description. Guardians, we are finally talking about Elsie's rifle, and this is a serious contender for best high-impact pulse rifle in the game. Elsie's can hang with the heavy hitters. I'm talking No Time, Messenger. Elsie's rifle can hang in there just fine, and it has some advantages that those weapons don't have. We're going to talk about PvP and a little about PvE, but this is definitely more of a PvP weapon, and these days I just don't see that many people running high impacts in PvE anyway. So moving on, Elsie's rifle is a void high-impact pulse rifle. This does of course drop from the content from the End of the Light update. It can drop from chests in Onslaught. I've had it drop randomly in Onslaught. It can drop from engrams from Shaxx, as well as the weapon box next to him in the Hall of Champions. So unfortunately, RNG is a huge factor here, and I know that grinding those Onslaught guns can get irritating and repetitive, but in this case it is worth it. Granted, there isn't a ton to say on this weapon, so this will likely be a shorter review. It's pretty standard stuff for a high impact pulse. So starting with PvP, let's talk about competition for a second. The first thing I want you to look at is Elsie's base stats: 60 range, 55 stability, 42 handling, 60 reload speed, 24 AE, a recoil direction of 73, and an aim assist stat of 40. Then I want you to compare this to the most direct contender for best legendary high impact pulse rifle, the Messenger, with 66 range, 54 stability, 31 handling, 38 reload speed, 37 aim assist, 20 AE, and a recoil direction of 60. So the Messenger is worse in every stat, with the exception of having 6 more range and 1 more zoom with 18 as opposed to Elsie's 17, but that isn't really enough to make a difference. And even that extra 6 range is only going to give you a little over half a meter over Elsie's rifle. Now, don't get me wrong, Messenger does of course have access to adept mods, and Messenger does have a better overall perk pool, to be sure. Messenger has some perks that Elsie's rifle doesn't, such as in the third column we have Rapid Hit, Moving Target, and Perpetual Motion, fourth column Kill Clip, Harmony, and Encore. But Elsie still has all the perks you need on a pulse rifle, and in that third column, while not having Rapid Hit is certainly painful, Elsie's has Zen Moment, which I would argue is still better than Rapid Hit. Plus, of course, the Messenger is kinetic, and Elsie's is energy, so with Elsie's you have the option to run conditional, which is huge. Now, moving on to perks, for your barrels, really anything here is at least going to be viable minus full bore. On high impact pulses, I like to lean into range, stability, and recoil direction. And I like to get some handling if I can get it, but realistically this is not a weapon most people are going to be playing particularly aggressive with. Keep in mind, stability is extremely helpful on pulse rifles, so I would prioritize stability, then range, then handling. Now, if you are planning on trying to play aggressively with this thing, then go for fluted barrel since it will help your handling and your stability. If not, I would primarily be looking for polygonal rifling, corkscrew rifling, or chambered compensator. Polygonal for the stability, corkscrew for a little range, stability, and handling, and chambered for recoil direction and stability. My favorite roll that I have on this weapon so far has extended barrel and polygonal, and it feels great on both. Now, hammer forged rifling is still viable, but I don't think the 10 range is really needed here given that high impacts are very rangy as is, and arrowhead break or extended barrel are also perfectly viable. Like I said, I very much like my roll with extended barrel, but the other options I mentioned will just help the weapon more as a whole. Then, as far as a masterwork goes, that's largely up to you. I would prioritize stability and range, though handling isn't necessarily a bad option depending on what your barrels and mags are. Now, moving on to magazines, ricochet rounds should be your primary choice here for range and stability. Then in the third column, the best choice here by far, and it is not even close, is Zen Moment. Zen Moment provides a ton of flinch resistance, which is why if it's available on any weapon, it will usually be my top choice since flinch is such a dumb mechanic. Plus, on top of that, it also provides a huge reduction to your overall recoil, which is extremely helpful on a weapon such as this, where landing crits is extremely important. And with Zen Moment, all you have to do to proc it is land your shots, and the more shots you land, the more it's going to help you out. It's a perk that will help you for the entirety of every gunfight you get into. Then we do also have Keep Away, but again, the extra range and reload reload speed just isn't really necessary here. These pulse rifles already have plenty of range, and the reload speed is already at 60, which is very high for a weapon such as this. Of course, the accuracy can be helpful, but Zen Moment is still just better as a whole. Now, I will say we do have under over here, and if you get a good roll with under over, then keep it because overshields are still a huge problem in this game, and Bungie doesn't seem to really have any plans to address them that I'm aware of. Then in the fourth column, Headseeker is my first choice here for raw consistency, but if you want to roll for kill chaining, then go with Kill Clip. Now, the last thing I'll mention is the intrinsic perk on these Brave weapons is insanely strong. On a light class, it acts like Demolitionist and will give you grenade energy on kills. On Darkness subclass, it does basically the same thing, just for melee energy. And this does make this one of the strongest intrinsic perks in the game. I will say introducing a PvP sandbox with reduced abilities just to have an intrinsic perk like this seems a little odd, and I would argue that it probably shouldn't work in PvP, but it is what it is. Now, as far as performance goes, this may very well be my favorite legendary pulse rifle in the game of its archetype, and that's for 3 reasons. 1, Zen Moment is on it. Flinch in this game is absurd, unflinching mods are too expensive and not nearly effective enough, and Zen Moment helps fight flinch tremendously. Then 2, the weapon just feels very, very good. It feels responsive and accurate. The weapon model is also very slim and unobtrusive, and it has a very clean sight picture, which is of course something that I always appreciate with any weapon. Then lastly, 3, it's energy, so you can run conditional with it. And on a brief tangent, I genuinely don't think there's anything wrong with conditional. Conditional is a bullshit counter, and I can guarantee that the vast majority of people complaining about it are using a lot of that bullshit. Conditional means that your well or bubble aren't necessarily a free win. Conditional will kill you through an overshield, through Banner of War, out of Weave Walk, out of a rift, so on and so forth. And quite frankly, if you die in a roaming super to a shotgun, that is your own fault. And lastly, conditional also gets the one-shot kill with relative consistency, something that a lot of our legendary options really do struggle with. So for these reasons, Elsie's rifle has actually kind of become my primary pulse rifle of choice for the archetype, even replacing No Time. Elsie's has pretty much everything I'm looking for in a high-impact pulse rifle. Here's the best roll I've gotten so far, it's on your screen now, and this is probably the roll I'm just going to stick with unless I get a better one with chambered compensator, as of course stability is king on pulse rifles because higher stability reduces your overall recoil. Now, is this pulse in and of itself better than No Time? No, it definitely is not. No Time literally aims itself, but the ability to run conditional with it, and with bubble, overshields, and well still being a problem, conditional is still unfortunately something of a must-have. So for those reasons, Elsie's rifle is my new go-to high-impact pulse for PvP. Now for PvE, like I said, this is for sure more of a PvP weapon, but there are still some options here. Granted, I definitely don't see many people using high-impact pulse rifles for PvE. In fact, the only pulse rifle I feel I see with any sort of consistency is probably the BXR. Pulses seem to have kind of fallen out of favor for PvE. But for PvE, you have Repulsor Brace, Under Over, Feeding Frenzy, and Rewind rounds in the third column. The best option here, I would say, is Repulsor Brace. Perfect synergy with Void builds, kill a Void debuff target with the weapon, and you get an overshield. Then in the fourth column, Frenzy, Destabilizing Rounds, Kill Clip, Desperate Measures, and Adrenaline Junkie. Most of these are viable, but my favorite options here are Frenzy, Destabilizing Rounds, Kill Clip, and Desperate Measures. Frenzy will give you a free damage buff after being in combat for 12 seconds. Destabilizing Rounds will make enemies explode on a kill and make any targets around them volatile. With Desperate Measures, you get a stacking damage buff from kills with the weapon, and then with your melee or grenade abilities. And of course, Adrenaline Junkie will give you a damage buff after a grenade kill, but Adrenaline Junkie is a perk that I typically prefer on weapons that can also roll with Demolitionist. Now, as far as combos go, for Ad Clear, obviously you have Feeding Frenzy and Kill Clip, but really my favorite combos would be Repulsor Brace with Destabilizing Rounds or Desperate Measures. With a good Void build, Repulsor Brace will give you a almost constant overshield, and Destabilizing Rounds can really feed into this, or or Desperate Measures can just give you a near constant damage buff since abilities are going to carry you through most PvE activities anyway. Though, of course, Frenzy is never a bad option either, if you just want to make sure you always have some free damage going downrange. One thing that's worth mentioning is, given that Void Hunter has seen a huge surge in popularity thanks to Onslaught, this is a perfect weapon for that build. Admittedly, on other classes, I am less excited about it. On Warlock, chances are you're running well, and a solar weapon will just work better there, and on Titan, I would imagine either Strand Titan with Banner of War, or maybe Arc Titan with Thunder Crash. Obviously, Solar Titan with a Bonk Hammer sort of build comes to mind, so on and so forth. And when we're talking PvE, the thing about Elsie's rifle is this is a build crafter's weapon. It should be married with a potent Void build to really get its full benefits. But if you're in a PvE activity where you just need some range, this certainly isn't a bad choice, though even then, a scout rifle would probably just be better. So overall, I'm very happy with Elsie's rifle. This is an S-tier PvP pulse rifle and a solid enough PvE rifle with the right build. Elsie's rifle feels great, it feels responsive, it looks great, it hits hard, it's pretty much everything you would want in a pulse rifle. But that's all from me today, Guardians. As always, do me a favor and hit that like button and leave me a comment with your thoughts on this weapon. I love hearing from you guys. And as always, if you want to support the channel, the best way to do that is by hitting that subscribe button with the bell icon and sharing this video with anyone you think might find it entertaining or informative. Also, since that last build video got a pretty positive reception, I will pretty soon here be posting one talking about what is currently my favorite PvP build, so keep an eye on that. But for now, Guardians, I'll see you all in the next video. Peace.